Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Today, we're going to be talking about my very favorite, hands down, all time favorite brush marker, and that is the Karin Markers. Now, they have so many different qualities which make them unique, and to me, I don't think there's any marker that is even comparable to these markers. Some people say the Sharpie stained marker is similar, but I personally think that Karin markers are in their own category by themselves. And today I'm going to talk about what they are, how to use them, how to blend them, what paper to use, and I'm going to also be showing you the upstrokes and the downstrokes and what makes them unique. Now, these are brush markers that contain 2.4 milliliters of paint. Each have liquid ink technology. Now, the liquid ink technology basically means that the ink won't run out or fade up until even the last drop, and they are twice as efficient as traditional filter markers. They also have a durable, flexible, and replaceable nib. And they have, like I said, a replaceable nib, which is really convenient because sometimes the nibs do fray. And I have an example of one on my black Karin marker. The ink has actually outlasted the nib. But I've had my original set of Karin markers for over a year and a half, and all of my markers still have ink in them. So as you can see, this Karin marker, it still actually has a good amount of ink. I've had this one for over a year and a half, and if you see my Instagram, you can see I use it a lot. But the nib has frayed a bit, so you could just use some tweezers and pull it right out, and you can purchase nibs to replace it with, and then your marker will last even longer. So they actually have 12 pen sets, and these are curated. Like they have blue sets, they have a flower set, they have a skin tone set, they have all different sorts of sets that contain 12 brush markers that are curated to go together. So that is a more budget-friendly option for those of you not looking to spend as much money but looking just to try them out. They have the Brush Marker Pro mini box, and this is their set of 26 pens plus one blender pen. And they also come in this sleek carrying container, which is meant to be stored vertical. They also have the Brush Marker Pro Mega Box, which contains 60 colors and 3 blender pens. Also in this nice storage container. And then their newest box is the Brush Marker Pro Mega Plus box, which contains the neon colors. Now, this box contains 72 colors with the neons and 3 blender pens. Also in the storage container. So how should these be stored? Now, these are meant to be stored capped and with the tip facing up. So you don't want to expose these to bright sunlight or increased temperatures. And actually, Karin Markers also says that if your tip does dry out as a result of keeping the cap off, then what you can do is cap the marker and put it tip down for about an hour, and then you should come back and the marker should work. This is just their little manual that also comes in the box. So one thing I love about these markers is that the packaging helps you to store them vertically. Now, if you're anything like me, you take your pens out of the package right away and just put them somewhere else to store them. But these are actually the only markers that I keep in their original container because I like the way the packaging looks and it helps to store them the correct way. So what kind of paper to use with the Karin Markers? So first off, if you're just using a single marker and you're not doing any blending, I suggest this Canson XL marker paper. And I also do use the HP LaserJet Pro paper. It comes in a ream, and it's also really smooth paper that's not going to fray your pens. Now, the reason why I only suggest using those 2 papers for single markers is because the markers are very juicy, I guess you could put it, and they can't take a lot. The paper can't take a lot of that extra moisture that the pens leave. So if you want to blend, I suggest using Canson XL watercolor paper. This is really budget friendly too, and it blends really well on this paper. I also use Canson XL mixed media paper. This one is 98 pound weight, so it's not quite as thick as the watercolor paper, but these are the 2 choices that I would use for blending. So another question I get asked a lot is, won't using watercolor paper or mixed media paper cause fraying to the tips? And my answer to that is yes and no. I've had these markers for a year and a half, and I'm still on my original box. And the only tip that I can say needs to be replaced is the black tip. So I use these a lot on the Canson XL watercolor paper. And the reason why I say yes and no is because these markers, if you're going to blend, if you can see, it's still wet right now. You have to have a thicker paper in order for it to withstand all that juiciness. Okay, sorry I keep saying juiciness. I don't like saying that word. It just sounds weird to me, but that's the only word I can think of. So the blendability, these blend really well. there's a couple different ways to blend them, which that's going to have to be a whole different video and a whole different topic. But as you can see, they stay wet for a long time, so it blends really well. You can change the colors. And if you want to give it that bleeding effect, actually, I'll go this way. Like the color bleeds together. But there's no doubt that these blend really, really well. It's like my #1 pick for markers to blend, just because of the amount of time that they stay wet on your paper. The upstrokes and downstrokes are also what I really like about this marker. You can get some really, really thin upstrokes with the really pointy tip. And you can also vary your downstrokes, so they can be like a medium thickness on the way down, or you can push really hard and they can become even thicker. So that's also what I love, is that the point of the tip is super pointy and really flexible, so the way that it bounces back makes it really easy to create that thin upstroke and thick downstroke. So my overall opinion of these markers is that they are my absolute favorite brush pens. Hands down, like I said before, there's nothing that compares to these brush markers. And I think what I like most about them is the liquid ink technology. It doesn't feel like they're ever drying out when you are writing with them. I think a lot of you can relate that when you're writing with some brush pens, it feels like they're literally drying out with every upstroke and downstroke. So I think these are just so unique in the fact that they have the liquid ink technology and they aren't going to just dry out on you. The color is not going to fade. So they look very pigmented and they have a really strong color tone every time. So if you are interested in these, you can find them on Karin Markers' website. You can also find them on Amazon, and they are just recently in Blick Art Studios, or you can find them online at Dick Blick. And if you are questioning whether these are worth the investment, I 100% say yes, they are. The reason why I think that is because I have had these for over a year and a half, and I'm still on the original set, and they still have tons of ink left. So I guess I should make a video on how long they do last whenever I feel like they've run out of ink. So if you're on the fence about it, maybe I suggest buying a smaller pack and seeing if you like them. But I 100% think that you are going to love them. And so if you are thinking about whether or not to buy the larger pack, I would say it is worth it, because I have spent lots of money on other brush pens and they've dried out within a month. The tips have frayed within the month, and the upstrokes, the downstrokes, they don't even compare to these markers. So, like I've said, these are 1000% my very favorite brush marker.